On this episode of Inside Boxing Live, we catch up with Shakur Stevenson, who has a massive fight this Saturday with Oscar Valdez. We also break down what we saw this past weekend, a big knockout for Tyson Fury. Will he retire? What is his status among all-time greats in the heavyweight division? And we also look ahead to Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, which goes down this weekend at Madison Square Garden. It's a loaded episode. Let's go. What is up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Inside Boxing Live. I am your host, Dan Canobio, presented by John Boy Media. What a big weekend we saw over in the UK. Tyson Fury with a big highlight reel knockout of Dillian Whyte. We are now gearing up for a massive weekend this upcoming Saturday with dueling cards that won't be going up against each other. More on that in a few. Joining us on the show this week, we got Shakur Stevenson. Obviously a huge fight for Shakur. He's going up against Oscar Valdez, a unification bout at 130 pounds. The first unification bout at 130 in like 15, 20 years. So a really good chat with Shakur Stevenson, who's more than confident, believes he should be on the pound-for-pound list, is climbing the ladder, is chasing greatness, 17 fights into his career. Can't even believe what the dude has accomplished in 17 fights. So really fun chat with Shakur Stevenson. Huge fight. I mean, coming off of his big win over Jamel Herring, Oscar Valdez coming off of a so-so effort against Robson Conceição. Obviously, before that, he had that big knockout win over Miguel Berchelt, which is now sort of not looking as impressive as we once thought, but still a big win for Valdez. I know a lot of people are rolling with Shakur in this fight. Can't be touched. His defensive numbers are off the scales, or off the charts, I should say. But that is our interview for this show, just talking about what we're doing this week. So we spoke about how every Monday I'm going to be doing podcast recapping what we saw over the weekend. Sometimes we'll have a guest, sometimes it'll just be me. But then also coming this Thursday, we're going to have a show coming out, and also a behind-the-scenes look at the Taylor Serrano press conference, because that's going down just a few blocks from the John Boy Media office here in Midtown Manhattan. I'm going to go there with a camera guy and a microphone. We're going to talk to Eddie Herman. We're going to talk to Jake Paul. We're going to talk to the Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano. It's going to be fun. So look for that on the not the CompuBox anymore. Look for that on the John Boy Media YouTube page. And of course, all these podcasts drop on iTunes and Spotify. You can also watch it on YouTube. All right, before we get to Shakur Stevenson, let's talk about what we saw this past weekend. Tyson Fury with another win. Tyson Fury with another knockout win. His third consecutive knockout win, disposing Dillian Whyte. Highlight reel knockout. I mean, you really couldn't have scripted a better night for Tyson Fury in his homecoming back in the UK, fighting there for the first time since 2018. The scenes were electric. Even if you're the biggest Tyson Fury hater, and there are plenty of them, you had to admit that those scenes at Wembley were special. 94,000, those ring walks, the camera work, the fireworks, the music. It was a scene that only heavyweight boxing can produce. So from that, the aesthetics of it felt big. Maybe the lead up didn't feel as big as it should have been. We talked about that a lot last week with Rob Tebbett, and you know, whether it was the Kinahan news, the MTK news, the fact that Dillian Whyte didn't want to participate in any of the pre-fight festivities. You know, it didn't feel like a big fight. It didn't feel as big as we thought it should be. But then fight night came, or fight day here in the States, and the undercard, we'll get to the undercard too, wasn't that good. But the fact when that last fight ended, the final bell rang, and we knew we were getting a Tyson Fury show, we knew we were getting a big heavyweight title fight, you know, business started to pick up at Wembley Stadium, and it did in a very, very big way. But from the aesthetics, I thought it was amazing. You know, the walkouts were special. The crowd was special. It felt big. You know, 94,000 fans. They beat it home on that ESPN broadcast. Must have told us about 30 times that it was a record for the UK, and it was maybe the third most fans ever for a boxing event. I think Chavez Sr. Has the record at Azteca Stadium. Let me get to the fight. And Dillian Whyte comes out southpaw. Dillian Whyte, thank you for showing up. I hope the check cashes because he did not put out a good effort. I understand that Tyson Fury takes away a lot of your best strength. I understand that. He is the best heavyweight today, and he's ranks among the best of all time. Great defense, great movement, you name it. We talked about this at length last week, that Dillian Whyte was a volume puncher, close to 70 punches around during his heyday. Even today, he ranks at the top of the heavyweight division, 64 punches around. He came out throwing 29 punches around. Came out in a southpaw stance. Landed only 5 punches in that opening frame in that southpaw stance, threw 20 punches. Fury was Fury. He never was in trouble. He never got out of first gear. Bobbing, weaving, jabbing down the middle. Right hands, 1-2s down the middle. The guy barely even broke a sweat. You knew that Dillian Whyte was frustrated because then he started to get into the dirty tactics, started getting into the elbowing, started getting into holding. It almost got away in that 4th round where the referee, luckily it slowed down and he got control of it. Shane Fury throwing water into the ring. That was the scene. But that was just the game plan from Dillian Whyte was lousy. The execution was lousy. He looked flat-footed. He looked slow. He only was throwing about 33 punches around against Povetkin, and he came out and threw even less against Fury. He was never going to win a punch-for-punch battle with Tyson Fury, this new and improved Fury that now has 3 consecutive knockouts. I thought the best way was to blitz Fury, was to just throw punches in bunches, get on the inside, hammer to the body. He only landed 29 punches, Dillian Whyte, but 17 of those were to the body. So that was his game plan, was touch the body of Fury, maybe break him down late. But Fury unleashed one of the best knockout punches we've seen in a long time with that uppercut. Dillian Whyte is susceptible to uppercuts. We've seen it time and time in his career. This one he didn't even see coming. Yes, there was a little bit of a push, but the punch, he was out before the push. He got up. He was staggering all over the ring. I know he's talking about that he said it was illegal, Dillian Whyte. He wants a rematch. He should have been given more time to recover. Give me a break. Come on. You were not in that fight at any moment. I don't know what one judge had. One judge had the fight 48-47. He gave Whyte rounds 2 and 3, despite getting outlanded 31-9 during that span. Fury is as close as you can possibly be to unbeatable right now. He is by far the best heavyweight in the game right now. And then we come to the afterwards, the aftermath, in the ring, chaos. Tyson Fury's asked the question of whether he's going to retire or not. He was been, teasing it all week long. Even before fight week, he's talking about how this was going to be the last fight of his illustrious career. I don't buy it for 1 second. I don't think you do either. Tyson Fury says a lot of things. In a big scrum, he'll tell you one reporter one thing, and then he'll look over to another guy and contradict himself within 10 seconds. Do I think he's going to retire? No. Do I think he'll get into like WWE type of stuff? Crossover fights eventually? I could see him fighting, or whatever you want to call it, wrestling in the WWE this summer. But I do think he'll get back into the ring because, as Eddie Hearn said recently, Tyson Fury's biggest fights haven't even come yet. And, of course, that is a undisputed fight with the winner of AJ and Usyk. And that there's going to be a rematch clause in that. So that's 2 fights right there for undisputed, whether it's against AJ, a fight that has been long eluded both men. And if AJ beats Usyk, that fight's just as big as it ever was. Because no one's picking AJ to beat Usyk. If Usyk wins, we want to see if the little guy can beat Goliath. Both fights are massive. They'd be the biggest fights of Tyson Fury's career, and they would probably do huge money. 100 million type of fights, especially if they do it in the Middle East, where they're looking to do the Usyk-AJ fight July 23rd. And then Francis Ngannou steps into the ring. And this was during the ESPN. They did 2 post-fight interviews, one with BT or one with whatever, with Steve Bunce, and he was all over the place. And then my guy Bernardo Osuna had Fury post-fight for ESPN. And I was just talking to Bernardo. He had no idea that Francis Ngannou was going to come into the ring. That was not premeditated. That was not in the ESPN production notes. That was, off the cuff type of thing. Maybe, Ngannou and Fury knew it was going to happen, but ESPN and Bernardo didn't know it was going to happen. So Bernardo's looking over like, what the heck is going on? Why is Francis Ngannou in this ring right now? And then they start, talking to each other about a crossover fight. It's going to be the biggest fight you've ever seen in combat sports history. I'm the champion in boxing, says Fury. He's the champion in UFC. We're going to do a hybrid thing with MMA gloves and a boxing ring. Give me a break. I have zero interest in a Tyson Fury-Francis Ngannou crossover fight. It won't be aesthetically pleasing. Francis Ngannou is a novice boxer at best. So in these mixed rules, does he take down Fury? Then what? Fury has no idea what he's doing on the ground. It's a joke. It's a non-competitive fight and nothing more than a marketing spectacle. And even then, I don't even think it does over 1 million buys, pay-per-views. Will it fill a stadium? Could they get 60, 70,000 in a stadium either in the U.S. or the UK or anywhere around the world? Yeah, but so could a fight with Fury and Joshua. So could a fight with Fury and Usyk. And that's for Undisputed. That's where I think Fury goes next. I honestly think he's enjoying himself now. He is enjoying the attention, but he's so damn good still. He's only 33 years old. I'm not ready to say goodbye to the guy. He's up there, top 5 fighters I want to watch. I want to see how far can he take this. Maybe he retires after the unification bouts, because I do think there'll be 2 of them. Because if you take a look at it, there really isn't anyone else for him to fight. He's not going to fight Wilder again. The bottom half of the top 10 in the heavyweight division is very lean. Joe Joyce is fighting Joseph Parker, which got announced hilariously during the undercard. Maybe Joe Joyce, but, Joe Joyce, I don't think can beat Tyson Fury. I don't think he has a high enough profile to make that a super fight. And then you have, the Luis Ortizes, you have the Andy Ruizes, the Filip Hrgovic. I can't find a fight anywhere. Jalalov, so far away from even competing with Tyson Fury. There aren't a lot of names left for Fury to clear out besides those 2 fights for Undisputed. Whether it's Usyk or whether it's AJ. So I think he'll sit back. He'll enjoy us right here, what I'm doing right now, talking about where he ranks, talking about whether he'll come back or not. He'll enjoy his summer. Maybe he'll do a SummerSlam fight with Drew McIntyre. And then we'll get the juices flowing. We'll see what happens with Fury and AJ. Excuse me. We'll see what happens with Usyk and AJ in July 23rd. But I'd be shocked if we saw the last of Tyson Fury. Also, we're seeing a debate on Fury's all-time great status among heavyweights. And I've seen some pretty interesting takes floating around Twitter the last 48 hours. And it's fine. I mean, this is what sports are, right? When you see someone clear out a heavyweight division like Fury has done, beating Klitschko, beating Wilder, now beating Dillian Whyte, wherever you had him ranked, beat Chisora. And the way he's doing it, undefeated, has that one draw, but it should have been a win over Wilder. You start to talk about all-time great status. It's fun. But it's like a flawed argument. Because how are we supposed to know if Tyson Fury could beat a Joe Louis, could beat an Ali, can beat a Joe Frazier, a Larry Holmes, a George Foreman? More recent times, could Tyson Fury beat a Lennox Lewis or an Evander Holyfield or Mike Tyson? Because the old heads that watched Ali, Frazier, Joe Louis, got to be even older than that, are going to ride with their guy. Nostalgia, it plays. Of course, you're going to say, my buddy Wally Matthews, who was, an Ali super fan, a Joe Frazier super fan, watched them fight growing up. He thinks there's no way that Tyson Fury could beat either Ali or Frazier. Then you got the guys that watched Lennox Lewis fight, and the guys that watch Holyfield, and the fighters of the 90s, or even go back to the 80s, the guys that watched Larry Holmes fight. They said there's no way Larry Holmes is going to lose to Tyson Fury, or Lennox Lewis is going to lose to Tyson Fury. It becomes something like that. It's like a pride thing of what era you watched heavyweight boxing in. So I think it's hard to figure out if you could beat those names. But the fact that he's even in the discussion, I think is pretty damn cool. His size would be a problem. I think he, being 6'9", moving like he does, now having the power, obviously he would dwarf Muhammad Ali, who was 6'2". But also, humans are just bigger now. There's no doubt about it. So who knows? I mean, Ali today would have been 6'6". So it's really hard discussion. I just think that the fact that we have a fighter today in the heavyweight division like Tyson Fury, who's very popular, controversial, really good, dominant, was in the discussion for greatest of all time is good enough for me. It should be good enough for him, and it's fun. Do I know where he ranks? The fact that he's in the discussion, like top 10, that's great. I think there's still more chapters to be written for Tyson Fury. But a great performance, great spectacle Saturday night. Awesome scene for boxing in what has been an awesome month, starting with Golovkin and Murata, going up to Fundora's win over Lubin, what we saw with Spence and Ugas, and what that created chatter for the undisputed fight with Crawford. This past weekend, Tyson Fury get that emphatic KO over Dillian Whyte, and now we get to talk about possibly undisputed at heavyweight. And now we roll into this week with Taylor and Serrano. I'm getting excited. Oscar Valdez and Shakur Stevenson, who you'll hear from in a little bit. I love that. But the undercard was putrid. It was one of the worst undercards I've ever seen for a pay-per-view. Highlight, I guess, was Nick Ball upsetting Isaac Lowe. That was a nice moment. That was a good fight. Tommy Fury opened up the pay-per-view, decisioning Nick Volkanovski, also known as Poland's 13th ranked light heavyweight. Tommy. He did score a knockdown. He looked better than he did in his last fight. But, he lacks just the basics. He lacks the fundamentals. He's slow. He doesn't sit down on his punches, doesn't have a jab, doesn't know how to fight on the inside. You heard Tim Bradley had to say during this fight. Tim Bradley said if Jake Paul is sitting home watching this, he's got his feet up and he's laughing. Jake Paul put out a statement and said he fought the first fight of the night. There was no one in the crowd. No one cares about Tommy Fury. Why would I give him a fight? Do I want to see it? Yeah, probably. Will it be competitive? I think with Jake Paul, I just think Jake Paul takes his boxing career more serious than Tommy Fury does. They're probably even in terms of skill set, but I just think that Paul has more athleticism and he takes it more serious, gets better training, better sparring. And I think Paul would win that fight. I still want to see Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. That, to me, is the fight to make. And I'm upset that it hasn't got any more legs to it. I'll see Jake Paul on Thursday and have to ask him about that. But he's going after Bisping. He's going after, he's still on that UFC kick. Fighting Michael Bisping, I guess it's something different, but it isn't really. It's a different name in an MMA fighter. But at least with Tommy Fury, he's technically a professional boxer, and I use that very loosely. But Chavez Jr. would be hilarious. It would be awesome. He's just really not dependable, Chavez Jr. So that was the undercard, putrid, but did have some funny moments. That's that. That's putting a bow on the Fury fight, heavyweight division, looking fun. The top four, or the top three now, it's Fury, it's AJ, and it's Usyk. And we'll get some clarity in mid-July or late July. Obviously, upcoming this week, we have a loaded fight night Saturday night. Now, I had tweeted out today that ESPN is going on the air at 10 p.m. on the East Coast. And I'm pretty sure they have 3 fights. Keyshawn Davis is on the card. I don't know the other fight. But there's also, obviously, Valdez and Stevenson, the main event. So if that's starting at 10 p.m. Eastern, then they ain't getting in the ring to at least midnight. Valdez and Stevenson, that's probably off right there. They're probably more along 12:30, almost 12:45 in the morning on Saturday or Sunday morning on the East Coast. So that means, and I know I have it on good knowledge here, I was told by some people at the Zone that Taylor Serrano ring walks are scheduled for 10:15 p.m. So there's not going to be any head-to-head. I know a lot of fans were upset, like, I don't want to watch two at the same time. I don't want to tape delay one of them. I don't want to watch one later. You'll hear from Shakur Stevenson on how he was able to work out, the powers that be were able to work out a deal with, Jake Paul, Jay Prince, who manages Shakur Stevenson, and a lot of other fighters, and Shakur Stevenson all got together, Joe Markowski from DAZN, some people from ESPN, to make sure that they were not going head-to-head. See, this is the power of Jake Paul. Everyone wants is quick to criticize the guy, but he's got juice. He talked about not wanting to have these fights go up against each other. So guess what? They're not going up against each other. Fans win. So you tune in early. I'm pretty sure the DAZN card starts at 8 p.m. There's some awesome fights on that. We're going to get very deep into that on Thursday's pod. But with Taylor Serrano starting at 10:15, I can see that's going to go off the air by 11. By 11 o'clock, we'll probably be in the co-main event on ESPN. Everyone wins. I'll be at Jack Doyle's Restaurant and Bar, right on 35th Street, right next to the Garden, after the Taylor Serrano fight. Come through. We'll watch Stevenson Valdez. We'll have a good time. But that's that. Yeah, I'll get more into those fights. Obviously, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, it's the biggest fight in the history of women's boxing. Highest purses. 7-division champion, Amanda Serrano, 2-time gold medalist and undisputed champion right now with Katie Taylor. Doesn't get any bigger than this. The first women's fight to headline the big room at Madison Square Garden. Epic. It's been a great 18 months for women's boxing. It's going to be an even better few months after this for women's boxing when Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall step into the ring. I don't know what's going on with Alicia Bumgarner and Michaela Mayer. That's probably not happening this year, but that's going to happen sometime next year. But this is a celebration of women's boxing. It's a celebration on how far they have come. I cannot wait to be there, Madison Square Garden, ringside, working for CompuBox and bringing you all sorts of content for John Boy Media. And then, of course, Oscar Valdez and Shakur Stevenson. Stevenson can't be touched, can't be hit, hasn't been outlanded in his last 43 consecutive rounds. Can Valdez crack that code? He's got that sweeping left hook. He put Burchell to sleep with it, and he's got into many wars in his career, Valdez. But since linking up with Eddie Reynoso, he's become a little more refined, become a little more defensive, but has shown glimpses of getting into wars. He's going to have to bring the fight to Stevenson. I want to see that. I want to see Stevenson pushed. I want to see Stevenson hit. I want to see how he reacts. So that's what I'm looking at so far as I comb through footage, as I comb through the numbers with Stevenson and Valdez. All right, loaded. We're in the midst of a crazy stretch of boxing. Good fights, good times. But let's get to our interview this week. Here he is, the champ, the young champ from Newark, Shakur Stevenson.
Shakur Stevenson is here. He's got a big fight this weekend, arguably the biggest fight of your career. How does it feel? We're only a few days out. How's everything going, my man?
Everything's going good. I'm in great shape. I'm ready to fight, and I'm just, I'm ready to put on a performance.
Where are you right now? I know you're gonna be heading to Vegas soon, but what's the finishing touches look like?
I've been in Vegas for 8 weeks.
Oh,
I'm already here.
So out of Colorado?
Yeah, I ain't training Colorado this training camp.
So what's been the biggest difference between training in Vegas and Colorado?
I don't know. Vegas just feel like a boxing city. Like, it's not hard to find sparring. I did my last camp when I fought Jamel in Vegas, and I feel like I looked really good. So I wanted to just keep doing what I did my last camp.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
At all.
Yeah, that was a hell of a performance. I had Jamel on the show numerous times, and I was asking him what makes Shakur so special, and he was like, dude, the fact that if I landed one punch on him, I felt like I accomplished something. It was so damn hard to hit the guy, and we'll get into your defensive numbers too, but do you feel like you made a statement in that last fight?
Yeah, I definitely made a statement. Jamel was a great fighter. Nobody really done Jamel the way that I done him, and I feel like that was a statement performance. It was one of the best performances of my career.
Yeah.
But I'm looking to outdo that come April 30th.
It's a big one. It is a huge fight. April 30th, Oscar Valdez, 2 undefeated guys, title holders at 130. I've opened this up by saying this is the biggest fight of your career. No doubt it is. Are you treating this like it is the biggest fight of my career, or are you treating this like this is another day in the office for Shakur Stevenson?
I'm treating it like both. I mean, I know the circumstances, and I know that it's the biggest fight of my career. But I do also look at it like it's just another day in the office because I look at every fight the same way. I gotta know that it made me feel more comfortable, feeling like I'm in the gym sparring and stuff like that. And I try to go in the ring with that mindset.
So when you say you've been sparring in Vegas, that you posted that picture with Crawford, that was in Vegas?
Yeah, that was in Vegas.
Oh man. So what were those I know you've sparred with him before, and you guys have spent camps together, but what makes him so special, sharing the ring with him? What makes him one of the top pound for pound guys?
He's a smart thinker. Like, at the end of the day, he's one of the best fighters I think I ever been in the ring with. He's not easy to box. He make me raise my game up to a higher level, and I try to do the same for him. So definitely appreciate him for coming through and helping me out and giving me that work.
Yeah, that was something special when you posted that. But obviously, he is on a crash course or with Errol Spence. Big fight, 147 pounds, undisputed. I know one day you want to get to those levels too. Obviously, you're rolling with Crawford. How do you see that fight playing out? How does how does Terence Crawford win that fight?
I don't know. I'm really trying to not speak too much on that fight because I'm a friend of Errol Spence too. Like, I got a lot of love for Errol Spence too. So people don't know, like, back in the day, Errol Spence, before I went to the Olympics, I used to go to Dallas, and Errol Spence used to show me a lot of love. And even when I went pro, I done ended up in hotel rooms with Errol Spence and staying the night in the same hotel room as Errol Spence. So at the end of the day, I got a lot of love for Errol Spence, and I got a lot of love for Bud. So I just praise the amazing fight.
Yeah, let's just hope it happens. How about that?
Nah, it's gonna happen. It gotta happen. There's no way it don't happen.
Right. The way that Spence was talking after the fight, it was like they had a handshake deal, and he just said that last week that they pretty much have an agreement in place. I mean, it's got to happen now. I mean, what did you think of Spence's performance versus Ugas?
I thought he looked amazing. I thought he threw a lot of punches. He fought like a dog. Like, he was a real dog in there. He definitely put on a great performance against Ugas. I never seen nobody do that to Ugas before, so definitely made a statement.
Yeah, threw 784 punches. Don't ask me why I remember these things. Probably because I do the punch stats. 78 punches a round. That is a pace that will give fits to anyone in the welterweight division, especially Crawford, because Crawford is way more selective. You know this. You've been in the ring with him. You know, he throws like 35 to 40 punches around Crawford, but he's so damn powerful. That's why I think that fight is
style make fights though. Style make fights. That don't mean nothing if he throw less punches than somebody.
No, but stylistically, it makes sense. You know, it's like a volume guy in Spence versus a economical fighter in Crawford that's powerful. I mean, that right there.
Yeah, but I just disagree when you say, like, just because he throw more punches, it'll make it harder for somebody. I don't agree with that. I think I done been in there with guys that throw way more punches than me, and I'm picking them apart just because I picked the right punches.
That's right. And it's one thing I always look for in a fight that I love is, like, stylistically, it's like when a volume puncher fights a fighter like Crawford, and look at it with Castano and Charlo. Castano is one of the highest volume punchers at 154. There's like 80 punches around. Then you look at Charlo, who's down in the 30s, but he has heavy power. And it always comes out to the fighter like Castano always ends up throwing less because he's worried about what's coming back on the other end.
Yeah.
So that's what you got to take a look at too. But guys like Spence, guys like Crawford, guys like Tyson Fury, who we saw this past weekend, do those guys give you motivation being, one of this younger guys that's rising the ranks?
Yeah, they definitely give me motivation. It was a beautiful thing to watch Tyson Fury fight over the weekend. Definitely great thing watching Errol Spence when Crawford fight. It's amazing. Canelo. Them guys right there, they definitely keep me on my game, and they motivate me to want to get to where they're at and surpass them one day. So I definitely be real motivated when I see them fight.
Well, you're well on your way, man. 17 fights, going for unified, doing things that, these punch numbers are absurd defensively. But going back to Fury's win, what did you think of his performance? Obviously, it was dominating. Dillian Whyte didn't really come, or he was just disarmed. Only threw something like 30 punches around. But what'd you make of Fury's win? What'd you make of the whole scene? What'd you make of everything, man? That was something.
Yeah, I thought Tyson Fury, he always said it when he say it in his interviews and stuff like that. He said it's only one way to beat me. You gotta knock me flat out. And I think he's right. Like, that's the only way you can beat Tyson Fury. I feel like there's no man on the planet of Earth right now that could beat Tyson Fury. And he looked beautiful. He boxed well, set up the knockout. And I wish him nothing but the best in his retirement.
Do you think he's actually going to retire?
Nah, I don't think so. But it sounds good.
Right? You're just like, I'm done. It's like, do what all fighters do. You're not anywhere close to that. You're only 24, 23, 24 years old. But it's like every fighter, whether it was Floyd, Manny, just always flirt with retirement once they get that big money in that, all the accolades. Obviously, Undisputed is still there waiting for him. But I don't think he's going to retire. He just looks too good, and there's just too much left.
Yeah, that's what I said too. I don't even think it's about the money, but I think, like, specifically, I feel like he got a love for boxing. I don't think he's ready to really hang up the gloves yet.
Right. So much attention, like so much fame, and still damn good. Like, really hard to beat. I think you give everyone fits.
He's dominant right now. Like, he's just so dominant. He haven't shown any wrinkles in his game. So,
do you think Usyk can beat him?
Nah, Usyk can't beat him. Usyk can't even touch him. That's gonna be hard for Usyk to even land a glove on him.
Yeah, it's gonna be the type of fighter is gonna have to be like it's like someone that can like pressure him. That's not really what Usyk is. Not really what Joshua is. Maybe like someone like Joe Joyce, who's not afraid to like walk through punches, but he's kind of slow and deliberate. I feel like Fury can box circles around him.
I don't even think a pressure fighter is gonna beat him. I don't think there's no man on the planet that could beat Tyson Fury.
Yeah. Do you think he belongs on the pound for pound list?
Yes, for sure. I think he top three on the pound for pound list.
What is Shakur Stevenson's top 5 pound for pound list?
Right now, I would have to go with Canelo, Bud, Tyson Fury, Errol Spence, and I don't know who number 5. Number 5 vacant right now.
Well, I know one day you want to be there.
I can punch myself into number 5 soon.
You're damn right. If you win this, let's talk about your fight. You win this fight, you are, I think, on your way to getting in the pound for pound list. Because I said this numerous times on my show, said on Twitter. You have the sustainable skills, the defensive skills, the fact that you're jumping up weights now. You'll be a world champion, or you already are a world champion in 2 divisions, but now you'll be unified in the 2nd division. That, to me, is what the pound for pound list is about. That's the criteria of the pound for pound list for me, is skills, being able to jump 2 divisions, and accolades. So if you win on Saturday, you should be in the discussion for pound for pound.
Yeah, and then I also think, like, fighting tough fights back to back like this, I feel like Jamel was a tough fighter, and Oscar Valdez is a tough fighter. So I got to handle business April 30th, but I definitely think I belong in the pound for pound list after this.
Yes, I agree. Let's go over your defensive numbers. I'm going to make you sound great right now. Shakur Stevenson has outlanded his opponents in 43 consecutive rounds. Are you aware of that?
Nah, I didn't.
That's absurd, man. The last time you were outlanded was the 7th round against Joet Gonzalez, October 2019.
Yeah, I remember that round.
What happened that round, man? Well, you left your foot off the gas.
I actually told myself I'm going to stand there a little bit more, and I kind of played into his game plan, and then I'm like, nah, let me get back to boxing now.
Yeah, 103 career rounds. You'd only been outlanded once. You fought some good names, so that's pretty impressive. How about this? 17 pro fights. Shakur Stevenson has outlanded his opponents 1,527 to 466. That's a 3-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember getting hit 466 times either.
Listen, I counted those.
Kind of off.
You saying I'm wrong, bro?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
You know what it comes to? Oh, go ahead.
What y'all count, like the body shots?
Of course, those count.
Okay. I must got hit with like 400 body shots.
Okay, yeah, not a lot of headshots. I mean, you're hard to hit. I mean, Herring told me himself, and the proof is in the pudding. But this fight with Valdez, and I want to see how you react to getting hit. Like, we haven't seen you hit. We haven't seen you hurt. We haven't seen you in trouble. We don't know if Valdez can do that, but I would like to see it. I want to see how you react.
Okay, well, that's just your opinion, but I'm telling you now, I don't plan on getting hit. I don't know about all that. I don't plan on getting hit. I plan on going in there and do what I always do, hit and don't get hit. That was what I was taught. That's my style. So that's what I'm going to stick to. That's what wins fights, and that's what happens when you are as good as me. So.
And how about with Valdez, the fact that he has that patented hook? He's been able to stop guys like Burchell. He's been in wars. He's got good offense, and that's what he's kind of known for.
Well, I mean, I don't really, pay attention too much to that because Burchell and Shakur Stevenson is two different fighters. Mm-hmm. Anybody he had fought before and me is two different fighters. So I don't think he ever been in the ring with anybody on my skill level.
Okay.
They try to say I'm not experienced enough and all that, but I've been boxing for 19 years now, so I got all the experience in the world.
Yeah. I'm impressed that you could talk on Zoom. You could be driving. You can hit, not get hit.
I'm not driving right now.
Okay.
I'm not driving. I'm in the passenger.
Okay, good. Because I know you got skills. Like, I know you can do two things at once, but driving and zooming, that's a tough game.
Yeah, yep.
All right, bro. How about this? Your fight coming up. You're sharing the night with one of the biggest women's fights in the history of women's boxing. Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. What's your thoughts on that fight?
I think that that's a great fight. Long as I pray that they don't make it happen at the same time. I heard that they was gonna switch the times up, so I hope they stand on their word. But I think that's a great fight for women's boxing. I'm in full support of them ladies. I hope they go in there and do an amazing job.
Yeah, I heard that Jake Paul placed the call to your guy, Jay Prince, and they worked out a deal to not have these fights go up against each other. That would make sense. That would be great for boxing fans.
Yeah, that would be cool, but I kind of think I played a big part in that. I think after I tweeted what I tweeted, the Zone put something out there and said that they was not going to do it at the same time, and they was going to make sure that they did the Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano fight at two separate times. So I think I had a big part of it too. Jake Paul did too because he texted me.
Oh, he did? What did he say?
He texted me about the fight. So he just, we was talking about the same thing. I ain't trying to put everything out there that we had a conversation about.
So we can probably see Taylor Serrano maybe come out first, and then they end the show, and then you flip over to ESPN, and we get our main event, unification bout. Fans are happy.
Yes.
That's what we want. We want fans to be happy. We want fans to watch both fights. We want attention to be on all four fighters because this is a great time. This month, what does it feel like to be part of this month? This month has been crazy from Triple G and Murata to Lubin and Fundora to Spence and Ugas to last week with Fury and White. Now it's your turn now. It's you and it's Valdez and Serrano and it's Taylor. This month right here is something that's going to look back and be like, wow, that was a huge month.
I'm glad to be a part of it. I think me and Valdez is like the biggest and best fight of the month, if you ask me. But I think that it's been some great fights, and I'm ready to join the show.
Yeah, bro. And finally, you are now you're a big guy. Like, I've seen, we've been in rooms together. Like, I see, obviously 130 is where you're at right now. I could see you one day climbing those ranks, getting up to 135, getting to 140, maybe settling in at 147 one day. There's a lot of big talent now under ESPN banner, whether they're signed with Top Rank, whether they're signed with Lou DiBella. Of course, I'll talk about a guy like Devin Haney. Yeah, I know you don't like to look ahead, but do you have your eyes set on what's going on at 135?
Yeah, I pay attention. I definitely see everything that's going on. I see what's going on. I think that there's some great fighters there, and there's some great fights to make once I get there. But we still got to stay focused on Valdez. April 30th, my opponent is Valdez. If I don't beat Valdez, we won't even be talking about me versus anybody else. So at the end of the day, I got to handle business come Saturday.
You think Haney comes out on top versus Kambosos?
Yeah, I think he beats Kambosos. I think that he beat him in both fights. I think he's the better fighter. I think he's going to outbox him.
Well, if that's the case, he wins both. He's got that third fight. They say it could be Lomachenko, but you do your job. I mean, that's a huge fight at 135 between you and Haney.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge fight. I'm down with the showdown. But at the end of the day, I probably want to get all the belts at 130, so I can say that I'm undisputed too.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to like do it my way, where I can go get the belts all, collect them myself, basically, like going from Valdez to whoever's next, and then whoever's next. So.
Yeah, this picture at 130 is a little model. It might be a little tough to get those fights, but I'm not saying you can't. It's Kenichi Ogawa and it's Roger Gutierrez, but it's pretty clear that you and Valdez are the cream of the crop at 130. All right, lastly, Tank and Rolly fighting at 135 at the end of May. That fight's not going distance, right?
Nah, not at all.
And who's doing the damage in that one?
Tank knocking him out. Tank gonna sleep him. I hope it's a body shot, but I can see him putting him down with a body shot, or Tank punch hard, so he probably hit him in the head.
That's a showdown too. One day, you and Tank. Oof, his power versus your movement.
Yeah, that'd be a big fight.
Big fight. You guys are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know he's been tweeting like crazy too. There's a lot going on with him, and I don't know if you keep track of what's going on with him and Mayweather and him. He seems like he's unhappy. So maybe, who knows? Maybe one day he could be be able to make that fight with you a little more easily.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, my man. Just keep it up. I'm looking forward to watching April 30th. Huge fight. Belts on the line, multiple belts. It's Shakur Stevenson, who has not been outlanded in his last 43 rounds, versus Oscar Valdez, who's coming to change that. 466 punches landed on you, bro.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to keep it at that?
For sure.
Valdez ain't going to land one punch on Shakur Stevenson, says Shakur on April 30th. Appreciate the time. Best of luck, and we'll catch up soon, man.
All right, thank you.
Okay, that is a wrap for this edition of Inside Boxing Live. Special thanks to Shakur Stevenson. Special thanks to Julie Goldsticker, who put that interview together. As you can see, I was back in my kitchen apartment, and a good old-fashioned Sunday interview with Shakur Stevenson. Still don't know if he was driving or not. I think he was in the passenger seat. But the guy's talented. He can drive. He can sit in the passenger seat. He can hit and not get hit. He can give out answers. But I agree. That if he wins on Saturday night, then he deserves to be in that top 10 pound for pound, or on the fringe of it at least, because he's doing everything you should do when it comes to this. I don't even know what the criteria is for pound anymore, but I assume it has to be climbing weights, winning championships, accolades, tough fights, resume, the eye test. Shakur Stevenson has it all. I eventually think he'll be at the top of that list one day. But with the win, he will be in that top 10, I think, in pound for pound wise, and will be a 2-division. Well, he already is a 2-division world champion. He will be unified at 130, and he said he has his sights set on becoming undisputed at 130 before eventually moving on to 135. But that is a wrap for this edition. We're back Thursday with another podcast. We're back Thursday over on the YouTube, John Boy Media or JM Boxing YouTube page. We'll have some fun behind-the-scenes content from the press conference for Taylor and Serrano, going to the Yankee game this week. It's a hell of a week here for Inside Boxing Live. All right, we will see you next week. Thank you, everybody.